Hello and welcome to another episode of Think Chatbot. It's a series where two people try and build a chatbot in about 35 minutes, 45 minutes an hour, depending upon the type of chatbot. And the types of chatbots we build, they'll either be, say, client-suggested chatbots or things that we've thought of in-house, or maybe a few things that we found on some different kind of chatbot forums that people thought would be quite interesting to see. And so we try and keep it quite fresh, using a different variety of the ubisend chatbot platform, showing off what it can do, and just kind of really nice way to see underneath the hood of how things work kind of in real time. And my name is Jacob, and I've been on this series for quite a long time now. I think this is our 12th episode at the moment, and I'm joined by the lovely Alex DeBecker, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Yep, happy to be here once again. Another week, another chatbot.
Perfect. And so I believe, Alex, you've already had a little bit of a think about the chatbot that we are building today. I think there's a slight change to normal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like last week, for those of you who were here last week, Jacob's going to take the lead on this, which means that I have the pleasure of explaining what the build is going to be about. And so this week, what we're basically doing is we're building or upgraded an existing chatbot to be able to handle two languages. So within the ubisend platform, one of the key things that you can do is you can actually activate various languages for the same bot. So a user could get access to your bot, and then at the very first step, it's sort of like, which language would you like to use moving forward? And the user can stipulate which language they're really interested in. And from that point on, the chatbot will only speak to the user in their preferred language. And so we're just going to show you exactly how to do that in a few simple steps.
Okay, sounds great. I'm looking forward to kind of jumping in with it and seeing what we've got. So do you want to switch off our cameras and have a little look at the mirror board?
Yeah, definitely. Before we do that, I think I'll explain a little bit what's happening starting next week. So for those of you who've been with us from the start, every week we basically take a project or a use case and we try to build it live in front of you. And it's usually quite structured. So we have the build, we have the mirror board, we go through it, we go through the build, and then we test the bot and we show you what we managed to achieve. And that has had a lot of success and people really loved it. But I think what we're frequently missing from these sessions is a lot of your questions. So people join into this call. For those of you who watch this as a recording, there's actually a live, we host this live, and quite frequently people join clients or partners or people using the platform or people who might want to use the platform, and they have loads and loads of questions, and we don't really necessarily get a chance to get around to it. Which is obviously a shame. So what we're going to do starting next week is a little test. We're going to test basically having office hours and turning this session into a session where you can come in with your ideas, with your blockers, if you're already a chatbot, a ubisend platform user, and basically go and speak to someone from the company, as in myself, or maybe Jacob, or maybe someone else. And so these sessions will, from now on, be a lot less structured. It's going to be me or someone else just simply working and being available, engaging with people who come into the session. But we won't necessarily just like sit in and build something specific. We'll be here to help, almost as a support mechanism. If you like watching gamers on Twitch, for instance, it's pretty much what I intend this sort of session to be. You'll watch us build bots as part of our daily job. I build bots all the time. And whilst we do so, you can basically come in, watch us if you find that interesting, or just ask your questions and get a bit of support, a bit of help. And I think like this is going to be a lot more engaging for many of you who want to join in, and it's just a bit more interactive than just sending emails and all that sort of stuff. So we'll have fun with it. It'll be very, very informal. And if no one asks any questions, then you'll just see me work for an hour. And if there's loads and loads of questions, you won't see me work. I'll just be answering questions. So we'll try that starting next week. I think I'll probably do that for 4 or 5 weeks. See if you guys enjoy it. I'll listen to the feedback, and then if it's good, we'll continue doing that.
I think it'll be nice to kind of change up the process a little bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing the different types of questions and a bit of that kind of relaxed conversational element to it. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Let's go and have a look at the mirror board. Okay, so as I mentioned, or as Jacob mentioned, we usually have a mirror board, which is where we basically write down the changes we're going to make, or the bot we're going to build, and the flow that we're going to create. This time it's a bit different. Typically, if you watch one of our previous sessions, the flow between boxes throughout this mirror board is basically the conversational flow. So the user starts here and they move down the flow depending on what they want to do or what they want to achieve. Now, in this particular instance, this is more the way we're going to implement this change rather than an actual conversational flow. So in this instance, the HR chatbot's reach is really good. It's performing really, really well. And so the client is looking to expand its reach to different languages and nationalities. So you have to imagine this particular company might have an HR bot in their London office, and it's working really, really well. And so they want to expand this to their German office. Berlin office. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a conversation that allows the user to change or to select their preferred language. And then we're going to update a few FAQs to include both languages. And then we're going to show you how that works in practice when someone first talks to the bot, picks a language, and then show you how the bot reacts in the different languages. Does that cover it, Jacob?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it all makes sense to me. It's so, yeah, although on face value it does look like quite a kind of simple mirror board there, it's just purely because what we're doing is quite complex-ish, I'd say, in terms of the technology, not in terms of the usability. So it doesn't need 1,000 steps to kind of get the users to the end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we see how that works in platform?
Yeah, I think we'll just jump straight in and start changing around some languages. And I will also say, as a slight disclaimer, I'm not going to be trying to pronounce any alternative language words because I have enough trouble pronouncing the English words sometimes. So I think you'll just have to be reading on the screen and trusting a bit of Google Translate there while I'm adding some different languages in.
It would be awkward if you started to try to pronounce German sentences. I don't think I know where to start either, so let's not try that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a one-way ticket to offending a lot of people accidentally if I start trying to do that. So as you can see on my screen now, if you're a regular viewer, you'll hear us say this a lot. We're currently looking at the ubisend CMS, and what I've done is I've basically just created a new client and added like one or two things in. So this is currently the dashboard, and the reason why it says you don't have any metrics selected is because this is a brand new account and there's been nothing to go through to create these metrics. So what we're doing is, again, just jumping back to the mirror board, obviously we're just creating a chatbot that speaks multiple languages. So what we're going to do is just start off and we're going to head ourselves down to settings and languages. And here you can see all of the different languages that ubisend has. And as you can see, there's a fairly large amount. I believe it's pretty much covering the majority of the well-spoken languages across the world. And obviously at the top, we've got those that are activated. We've got English, which is activated, and German there, or Deutsch, which is activated, and as well Dutch has just been deactivated for the time being. Activating them, really simple, literally just click activate and it's done. But as you can see, just for the purpose of this video, we are going to be focusing on German there, so I've just already activated that language. And I think what we'll do is we will just jump straight into the conversation builder and just start creating the conversations that allow the users to set their language. So within the conversation builder, which is where I've just gone now, we have all of these default conversations. And now normally what we'll do is we'll be creating a completely new conversation specific for the use case. However, for the time being, as we want, when a user is talking to the chatbot, we're going to want them to be setting their language pretty much as soon as they start talking to the chatbot. We don't want this to be happening kind of a while down in different conversations. So what we've got here is the pre-built conversation, welcome to your chatbot, and this is the default welcome conversation. So what we're going to do is we're just going to edit this conversation. So as soon as someone talks to the chatbot, it's the first thing that they see is the ability to set the language to something they're more preferable with. So we'll click edit there. And as you can see, this, as I mentioned, already pre-built, comes with the platform. Once you open it up out of the box, we've got a conversation that is triggered when the user first talks to the bot. So what this trigger here means is the first time someone talks to the chatbot, they're going to receive this message. Just to kind of demonstrate how that looks, if I head over to the demo, this is the first time talking to it and it's saying, hi there, I'm the HR help bot. Feel free to ask me a few questions. And then if we jump back into the actual conversation itself, you can see that is the exact same that we're looking at here. So
yeah, there's just a question that came through about testing the first conversation. So just to ease your mind, in the demo section where Jacob just clicked, this demo section will always act as if you were first using the bot. So this makes it a lot easier for you to test this type of conversations because every time you go there, it acts again as if it was the first time you've seen the bot. So it starts from zero every single time, which is a really good question from a usability perspective. You want to be able to test this very first conversation. And so this helps you do that. There was another question about having just German as a language, and you can absolutely do that. So at the moment, Jacob has, I believe it was English and German activated. But from the entire client's perspective here, you could actually just have German as the main language of the platform and completely deactivate English. So you don't necessarily need to have English and German in one bot. This is important because it means you can have one bot. You can have one bot with multiple languages, like we're about to build now, or you could have one language per bot. So you could create 3 different bots for the different languages. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely it makes sense. And I think one of the key things to stress there is obviously the way that the ubisend platform works is it's just kind of giving you all the options you could possibly need, essentially. So rather than saying, okay, this is your German and English chatbot, go and have a build, it's, okay, this is all the languages you can choose from, make the chatbot in whatever language you want. German and English, just German, just English, it's completely up to you. Sorry about just clearing my throat there. Okay, so so when the user first talks to the chatbot. So what we're going to do is we're going to slightly customize this conversation here to make room for the fact that users can set their language. So we're going to go into options and we're going to head down to message content, which is where, as you can see, we've got, hi there, I'm the HR help bot. Feel free to ask me a few questions. So what we'll do is we will just start editing this conversation here. So we'll go with, at the moment, as you can see, it says, hi there, I'm the HR help bot. We'll change this to something about changing your language or something along those lines. So let's just go with let's start by choosing your language. And what we'll do is we will head down to an action. And this is basically, and we'll add a postback button. And what we're going to do here is we're going to give them the options to choose from the 2 languages. So we're going to say English, and then that's just going to say English there. And then we're going to say German, which I believe I'm spelling this correctly.
You are not.
It's the E the other way, E and U the other way around, I believe.
That's it, yeah.
There we are, got there in the end. And I think I'll just copy paste that to save any more typing. So what I've done here is, as you can see on the right preview area, is I've just basically added 2 buttons. And I think I'll add a little semicolon there just. But I've added 2 buttons, so one for English and one for German. And then what this is going to do is when they type one of these, or when the user clicks one of these buttons, it's just going to send this message to the chatbot. So it's going to say they're looking to speak English or they're looking to speak German. And once I've kind of put this into the conversation, we're then going to add in a step which tells the chatbot what to do with this information. But for the time being, we'll just kind of have the skeleton roughly done there. So we'll click save and then we'll go close. And what we'll do is we will add the next step, which is this is going to be user sets language. And so when a message is sent, and then we're going to go down and we're going to basically enter the message, which is going to show that the language has been set. So we're going to say, let's go for great. Your language has been set as, and we'll just put a little thing here saying language. So basically, when the user has set their language, they're going to receive the message, great, your language has been set as language. And then, as well as you can see, we can also go up here, and what we can do is we can put in the German equivalent. So at the moment, all I've been doing so far is just putting in the English equivalent. But obviously, let's say, so this is someone's set their language as English and they've received an English response. We're going to want to do the same for German. So we'll head in there and we'll basically do the exact same thing with one that I have very nicely managed to copy and paste myself earlier. And we'll put language. So this has all been Google translated. I apologize if maybe there's a few grammatical mistakes or something there. My German isn't too great, so I am having to rely on a bit of Google Translate, but I believe that roughly translates into great, your language has been set as, and then we've got language here, which is going to be dependent upon what they've picked. So we will now click create. And so what we've done is we've got these kind of 2 steps. And obviously, as English is set for the main languages of the account at the moment, we're just seeing the English versions in the demo section. So what we want to do now is I suppose actually what we'll do is we'll just kind of show you the conversation up to this point and just through the English variety. So as soon as someone talks to the chatbot, first thing they can do is just set their language. So we'll go with English. And now the chatbot has responded with great, your language has been set as language. So that's all the kind of skeleton in place there. And I think what we're going to want to do is we are now going to start kind of hooking it up in the back end to make some of the smart bits work. So when we do click German, it instantly starts speaking in German to the end user. So the way that we do this is we're just going to jump straight back into the kind of conversation we were just editing earlier. And in this step here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable. And you'll have heard us talk about variables quite a bit before. I think the best way to explain actually is just to go back to this section here, but where we've got this square brackets language, we're going to want to put a variable in here so that when they choose English, it's going to either say English or German, where we've got that square brackets. So that word language is going to change depending upon their options here. So we'll just go into this. And for this, we'll head down to transitions. And as you can see, we've got save variables. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable and put it in there. So to create a variable, really easy. Head over to integrations and variables. And it really is literally this easy. We're going to click create and we're going to go employee language. So as you can see, obviously this is for employees and this is a kind of an employee focused chatbot. Obviously this could be for customer service. So you might have, customer language, or maybe even something a little bit more general would just be, say, subscriber language or something along those lines. But for the purpose of this, we'll just put in employee language and click save. So that is now our variable there. You will also notice, if you're a return viewer, that we've now got this little scope section here, which is subscriber, and you can obviously change this whether you wanted it to be for the subscriber or for the, sorry, my mouse is playing up a little bit there, whether it's for the subscriber or for the client as a whole. Won't go into too much depth about this at the moment, but it's just kind of another way of you being able to further customize the variables that you have in play. So if it's just for the subscriber, it will be individual for each person. So at the moment, obviously employee language, that's going to be individual for every single user. So we'll want it to be subscriber, but maybe say you might have a chatbot, which is and perfectly, and pretty much every single person that uses it is going to be talking in German for the next however many long. So you might want, when people put this in, to update it for everyone. So every single employee isn't having to go in and change it to German or something along those lines. It's completely up to you how you use that. And what I'll do there is I'm just going to jump straight back into the conversation builder and head here and just enter in that variable we just created. So as you can see, we've got save variables name and we've got employee language. So we'll add employee language there and click save. As you can see, it really is this easy. Sorry about that, I was just grabbing myself a glass of water. And as you can see now, we've got the little variable sign here. And as it can say, this is a good way of explaining variables, which comes with the system. The previous message will be stored as the variable employee language to be used later in the conversation. And that later is literally just here. So what we're going to do is we are going to go down into message content and change this to language. So we'll go and choose employee language and click save. And then we'll do the exact same for the German version. And employee language and click, click a typo, and then we will click save. So just to kind of, we'll go back into the demo and just kind of show what's happened so far. If I choose English, the chatbot is now, your language has been set as English. And if I choose Deutsch, the chatbot isn't going to be able to understand because we haven't put another message into this part of the conversation. But if I just reset the quick widget here and I choose Deutsch or German, so I really need to try and make sure I'm pronouncing things correctly, it will now say your language has been set. So this is kind of quite a nice, simple way of just making sure that it's always a little bit personalized. But as you can see, that isn't using the German equivalent yet because we haven't put that up in the back end. So what we'll do is we'll just add that step in nice and quickly. So we'll go into edit. And this time we're going to have it so that when they do click German, it changes their language to German and they receive this German response that we set up earlier. And the way we do that is by using actions, which I might have already just said. But so what we do is we basically add an action, and an action is something that triggers in the back end. The user doesn't even see this happen. It just tells the chatbot to do something. So as you can see, we've got request human action, which is essentially trigger live chat, or we've got, say, set subscriber location, set subscriber language, or create a ticket. Obviously, ubisend has a fancy ticketing feature and ticketing system where people can create tickets, but we won't get into that too much. We're going to just be focusing on the language. So we will set subscriber language and we will use the variable that we have here, which we created earlier. So we have employee language. So depending upon what the user picks in the previous step, it's then going to change to this language here. This is the good and powerful part about using variables like this, is that obviously you can have multiple languages and then they're going to be able to pick from quite a large list, and then your chatbot's going to be able to respond depending upon the list that they chose. We'll click save, and I believe that, fingers crossed, I think I've set this all up correctly, and we'll head back over into the demo and we'll just choose English. And as you can see, great, your language has been set to English. And then if I instead reset the conversation and go back to German, we are going to have the chatbot respond to us in the German equivalent of "Great, your language has been set to English."
Good stuff. So from this conversation, then now the user is set up as wanting to interact with the bots in German or English. So presumably now next step is going to be to translate other parts of the platform or the other parts of the interactions into various languages.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so you've hit the money on the head there. Is obviously, so now that they are the chatbot knows which language to communicate with them in. We're going to want to have things in the back end that are telling the chatbot how to communicate in these different languages. So in typical Blue Peter sense, which is something I like to say a lot when I've done these videos, but here is something that I've made earlier. So previously, I've just added in a single FAQ. Obviously, normally this section here would be filled with your chatbot's FAQs that is busy answering day in, day out. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to just basically change the language of this FAQ, because at the moment it only knows the English, so that then it's going to be able to also respond with different languages. So we're going to head over to questions here. And so this is basically where you put in a few default questions, and then the chatbot's NLP and kind of mechanical brain is going to be able to understand what these questions mean and transfer them to the correct answer, which we've got here. So what we're going to do is, as you can see, the exact same as within the conversation builder. We've got the English and we've also got the German. That little cross there means that there is no German answers currently inputted for this question, for this FAQ. So what we'll do is we'll just head over to the German section and we will start adding in a few new questions. So see, this is about resetting the password. So we'll have I believe that's how do I reset my password, and then we'll add in another variety, which is I need to reset my password, and then just another variety, which is I can't reset my password here.
For April Fools, I think we should do a whole chatbot build in a different language and just try and pronounce everything and just get the viewers really, really confused about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I think that it's funny because I've had quite a few different ideas for April Fools, but I think I'd prefer that one a little bit because it's everyone will be like, I'm sure that ubisend normally operate via these different languages.
Confusing.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've basically just put in the German equivalents to the English here, trusting Google Translate, that is. And so when obviously a user asks one of these questions, it's going to also be able to understand it in German. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same, but we'll do for the answers here. So we'll just quickly head over to German, and we will add in the German equivalent of I can help you reset your password. Start by following the link below to this. And then what we'll also do is we will change reset your password here to the German equivalent, and we'll just leave the link as is.
You left a big part of the English. You still have your password in that button. In the button, yeah.
There we are.
Very nice.
Thank you, Alex. That's why we always need two sets of eyes when we're doing these videos, because I'm prone to kind of occasionally having the odd typo or anything along those lines. Okay, sweet. So what we should be able to do now is if we head over to the demo section once again, and we will set our language. I think we'll start by going through the German equivalent. And obviously the chatbot's now speaking to us in German. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask it a question in German, which I'd love to try and pronounce, but I'm afraid I'm just not going to quite go there. And as you can see, if there are any German speakers, you'll be able to understand that the chatbot is now directing the user towards how to reset their password, and with a handy dandy little link there. So this is quite a nice example of how easy it can be to start adding different languages into your chatbot platform and kind of preparing users or making life just a little bit easier for the end user there.
Very nice. So let me batch through a few questions that came through whilst you were going through that. So I'm working from memory here because the chat has scrolled a little bit. I mentioned earlier, and I think you might not have been there when I discussed this, but basically you can have your chatbot speak only Dutch, not Dutch, although Dutch as well, but German or Dutch or English. So you don't necessarily need to have multiple languages within one bot. You can completely change the main language, the core language of your chatbot to whatever it is that you like. So you don't need to have a multilingual chatbot. You can just have a chatbot that works in a foreign language or a language that's not foreign to you necessarily, but foreign to us. Another question was around writing the two variants between English and German. You basically would have to write variants if you brought in a new language. You would have to write variants in across all of the places where there is a piece of copy within your bot. So let's say you've built an entire bot in English, and then you want to activate German. You'd have to go back, or we would encourage you to go back into each conversation, and basically at every step you have that little drop down that allows you to flick back and forth between English and German. And I would encourage you to get someone or yourself to go basically through all of that and change over all of the language. Another very valid question was, what happens if you don't enter a German equivalent and a user picks German and then there's no equivalent for that in their language? The short answer is that should never happen, because whenever you create something new, moving forward, once you've activated a new language, it will never allow you to save whatever it is that you're creating without the other language equivalent. So if you were to create a new FAQ now that German is activated, you wouldn't be able to create an FAQ without the German version of the questions and the German version of the answer. Same thing for conversations, same thing for broadcasts and notifications and things like that. For legacy content, it would basically revert back to English until you actually add the copy. But we would really encourage that if you do bring in a new language, spend some time, like plan that implementation properly, so that you have everything translated, because that would be a very poor user experience to just land and decide you want German and then the bot keeps referring back to English. So that would be somewhat poor. There were questions around special characters. So most of the special characters that you could have, like you can have I don't know what they're called. Forgive my ignorance, but the big B there, that I forgot what they're called. But the platform will manage to have these to manage to handle these characters. Same thing for things like Greek alphabet works completely. That sort of stuff will absolutely work. What the platform doesn't do is left to right. Right to left. And up and down, but that doesn't really happen anymore. But we can't do right to left at the moment, although it is something that we have in the back of our mind. If there's enough demand, we'll obviously work on that. I think that was pretty much all of the questions, the main questions. Anything else you want to cover from that? I don't know that you can see.
Yeah, no, I've just been, so I was just having a little scroll through as you were talking. And I believe I saw not so much a question, so to speak, but I saw kind of a couple of people just having a little bit of a conversation about how there was kind of more of a conversation about whether you'd want to have, say, a completely separate German chatbot and a completely separate English chatbot, or this kind of combination of the two here together. And I think that kind of obviously, it really does come down to your own individual use case. But I think having the option to be able to have both is obviously amazing. But I'd say probably I'd normally lend towards it's kind of quite nice to be able to have them both within the same platform, or within the same client, so to speak, because you'll be able to kind of monitor the different conversations, understand everything just kind of from a single central location, as opposed to, say, having to click between two chatbots, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and it's a good question. I think it like you say, it comes down to the use case you have, and the way that you're going to present your bot to your users. So typically, a multilingual chatbot would be really good for a customer-facing, maybe customer service or sales bot, where you know that a lot of your audience speak English and German. And so for this specific use case, I would try and maybe have one bot that does both languages. If you were to do an internal facing bot, like an HR chatbot, chances are you will know prior to the user reaching your bot whether they speak German or English. So typically, let's say you have an office in London and an office in Berlin, the employees will most likely go to your website .ge or something, or your website.co.uk, your internal portal, HR portal. And so in that case, it might be worth splitting them up. Sorry, that's my dog. So the idea for that is by separating the two bots, you can have really bespoke processes depending on who's talking to it. So again, taking the employee or the internal HR chatbot, let's say maternity leave, for instance, might be very different from the UK to Germany. I have no idea what the differences would be, but let's say in the UK you can take 12 weeks and in Germany you can take 16 weeks. So that's one thing, that's a very small thing that you can change within one bot. But let's say that to apply for maternity leave, in the UK you need to follow a 5-step process, and in Germany you need to follow a 12-step process. Then it becomes more difficult to have all of that into one bot for both languages. And so in that case, I would suggest creating 2 different bots, one for each language, which would make a lot more sense. Whereas for customer-facing stuff, typically your processes, or let's say a lead generation bot that's customer-facing, the information you're going to capture from the users is going to be the same whether they are in Germany or in England or in the US or whatever. And so then it's more likely that you will be able to get away with one bot with multiple languages. Now, the last thing I want to say about this is the more languages you add to your bot, because presumably, arguably you could add as many as you'd like, the more difficult it gets to manage it. So you will have to have many people into one platform managing the different languages, because presumably you won't have one person that speaks the 7 languages. And so again, the processes might be slightly different, and it just gets a bit messy. So although the platform doesn't technically stop you from doing this, I think from a UX and from a management perspective, you will want to maybe limit your bot to speaking 2 languages in the use cases where that makes sense.
I think that's a very valid point to raise, because obviously it's kind of one of those dangers of when you've got a platform as flexible and kind of as scalable and open as ubisend, is you don't want to end up kind of throwing, is it Frankenstein's monster, where you add everything everything you could possibly can onto a single chatbot, and you kind of end up with something that's trying to do a little bit too much. Obviously as well, you can create multiple clients of multiple different types of chatbots within a single ubisend CMS, so you're still operating within a central location. So it's not like you're trying to manage accounts across 25 different platforms or 25 different accounts, but every chatbot remains focused and kind of hyper targeted, and really just that kind of really nice refined user experience, rather than kind of a bloated mess, if that's so to speak.
Yeah, if you're hesitant, always reach out to your account manager, and they'll be able to assist you with this. I would just usually say keep it to max 2 languages. That's what I usually tell my the people I deal with. But yeah, it's kind of up to you.
Okay, yeah, well, I think that was quite a somewhat shorter video, or somewhat than we normally do here for the Think Chatbots. But I think for when it is setting language, it's kind of quite nice just to see a nice simple example of how that works, so you can kind of really understand how it works in the back end. And I think it also shows how it is quite easy to do. So sometimes you don't need an hour-long video if it only takes 20 minutes.
Absolutely. So again, for those of you who weren't here at the start, next week something a bit different. I'm going to basically open the doors to my office, so to speak, by having an essential drop-in session like we wanted to do from the start, but we sort of went a slightly different direction. So from now on, for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, I'm going to try and implement this change where you can essentially just join the room, the Zoom room that I'll have, or sorry, maybe it might be on YouTube, and just come and chat with me, ask questions, watch us work on some bots. It's going to be a lot less structured. It's going to be a bit more like watching, literally just walking past my office and just asking questions about how to build your bots, or what do you think we would recommend about X, Y, or Z. So it's literally just open doors, open office, come and ask us questions, come and watch us work, or watch us chill out, or whatever. And we'll see if people enjoyed this. I think the main reason we're doing this is because of, like we've seen today, loads and loads of questions come through during these sessions, and we don't really have a chance to talk about them. And sometimes questions are very unrelated to what we're building, and so we can't even touch on them. And so with this new format, hopefully we get to help a lot more of you guys, which would be quite fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be really nice. I might have to tag along myself and kind of have a little look at the kind of questions that are being asked. I might even ask a few of my own questions if I run into anything on my chatbot builds that I'd like your own opinion on there.
Very good.
And,
all right, cool.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you once again for your time, as always, Alex.
No problem. Thank you for building everything. Yeah, see you all.